I'm Justin Pritchard for Motoring TV. This is the 2022 Hyundai Kona N. It is an awful lot of fun to drive, but it's not perfect. And in this video, we're going to dive into some of the best and worst things about it. But inevitably, when you're reviewing one of these, there's only one way to get things kicked off, so let's get started. Imagine your favorite coin-operated arcade racing game, and then imagine being able to drive it around for real life, and you've got the basic idea of the Hyundai Kona N. This hot rod variant of Hyundai's popular compact SUV uses flashy arcade racer menus, graphics, and on-screen animations across two screens to help suck drivers into the performance. It creates a visual system that rewards the lead-footed and converts the light-footed. The targeted list of upgrades reads like a boy racer's Christmas wish list. If your teenager got their hands on your credit card and took the regular Kona on an all-expenses-paid trip to the automotive aftermarket, the result would probably be something just like this. Up front, 4 in a row makes her go. The Kona N's 2-liter Turbo 4 attacks the front tires with 276 horsepower and 289 pounds of torque via an 8-speed wet double-clutch transmission, or DCT, that's designed specifically for high-performing applications. The wet-designated version of this transmission uses oil to cool and control components within via 2 dedicated pumps to the benefit of reduced friction, temperatures, and shift speed while improving efficiency. The Kona N's DCT is a neat machine, and it feels on the ball. In slow traffic, where this type of transmission can often feel clumsy and slow to respond, I came away surprised at how direct and responsive it was, even with just a little throttle input from a stop. This makes the transmission much friendlier to use in stop-and-go traffic. That's no fun though. Opened up, lightning speed gear shifts are the star of the show, complete with a finely dialed-in sensation of being pushed up into the next gear, as the cogs swap electronically in milliseconds at full throttle. From traffic to track day, you won't throw this transmission off of its game. It knows what it's doing. Pulling power is very strong, but drivers will have to think a step ahead of the engine's turbo lag at times. Things start to get spicy above about 2200 RPM, and the engine breathes happily to the better part of 7,000 revs for a rare combination of meaty low-end torque and a high revving power peak that reminds me of the last time I drove a Civic Type R. The torque is flat, rich, and abundant, and you'll see this machine's best work at full throttle, with the revs halfway or better up the clock. Here, you really start to feel your seat pressing into your back. Still, though the engine sounds powerful and assertive enough, the soundtrack itself isn't the most thrilling you'll find for the dollar. At full song, this Turbo 4 sounds like it's raging away delightfully under the hood, but some drivers will wish for a smoother sound. Also, the fastest off-the-line starts can generate axle hop as the turbo gets breathing and tries to liquefy the front tires. This is much less likely on a clean, dry, totally flat pavement surface, though the fast-acting DCT and traction control systems quickly mitigate the stampiness with a quick but early shift up into second gear to regain traction. This isn't an enormous deal. If axle hop exceeds optimal levels, it's quickly and smoothly cancelled by the electronics and transmission, though you will lose a few hundred revs on entry into second gear. Torque steer is nicely managed but sufficiently present to encourage a firm grip on the wheel. You're good for 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in a little over 5 seconds, often with a few squiggles from the front end that are never overwhelming but will remind you to hang on tight as boost pressure builds in first. The Kona N's steering is hilarious. Even in its tamest settings, just a few millimeters of movement applied to the thick rim affect a change in direction. That ensures go-kart steering response at virtually all times. Weighting is relatively heavy for a locked-on feel that helps drivers steer precisely and with intent. A lane change requires a nearly invisible adjustment to the steering wheel angle. In sportier settings, drivers will find themselves piloting this pocket rocket around ramps, bends, and roundabouts with their wrists and fingertips, not their arms. Here's a machine that enters, rounds, and exits corners with a highly engaging feel, becoming of the friskiest of hot hatches. Downside, the Kona N has a rhinoceros-like turning circle, which is weirdly large for a compact. It's less maneuverable in tight quarters than it looks. The Kona N's brakes brought the biggest grins on my test drive, and also a complaint. At the top of the pedal's travel, a slight numbness makes it easy to prevent jerky, hair-trigger operation in traffic. Dig in deeper to see their best work, thanks to deep reserves of stopping power, and a feeling of precision that's amplified the harder you dive into the pedal. Panic stops are dizzyingly quick even with hot brakes. Like the engine, these big brakes feel most on point when worked hard, where every press deeper into the pedal is met immediately by harder deceleration, for a confidence-building feel of additional clamping force that's always at the ready. So mostly these brakes wouldn't feel out of place on a twice-the-price luxury performance model, even if I did note some of the squirmiest panic stops in recent memory, specifically thanks to a rear-end wiggle that appears from time to time. Some drivers might find this alarming, others will find it keeps them alert. The Kona N uses a set of bolstered sports buckets that look more aggressive than they feel. I think they're a great balance. On one hand, the bolstering holds drivers securely in place, making it easier for them to control the vehicle more smoothly while reducing their workload. That's good stuff for lapping day. On the other hand, bolstering is sufficient, not excessive, meaning the seats are easier to enter and exit and less likely to pinch or hug the backsides of thicker or wider drivers. After 2,000 kilometers in these seats, I'd call them effective at doing their job without being unduly uncomfortable, even if I wish for a softer, lower seating pad beneath me. Just choose your pants carefully. By design, the suede inserts that grip onto your clothing and lock you in place can also result in some aggressive wedgies on entry to your seat. In my Northern Ontario locale, the Kona N rode better than I was expecting. The track-tuned suspension keeps the body sprung in very close proximity to its wheels, though there is a layer of softness at the outer edges of the damper travel that helps smooth most of the harsh, brittle, and rough feel that's common of the most athletic suspensions in this setting. Road noise levels range from generous to excessive, ditto the sound of the gummy bear sticky tires flinging sand into the rocker panels. Elsewhere, certain specific pavement imperfections can coax abrupt whacks or clanks from the shocks, and the Kona's rear end can become stampy on occasion. This is mostly typical sports car stuff and easily excusable by the enthusiast driver in exchange for the reflexes enabled. My main disappointment from the ride in a rough road setting was noise-related, not comfort-related. Ultimately, I found the ride to be often noisy and sometimes abrupt, but the Kona N could definitely get away with a less comfortable ride given its capabilities. Left in its normal drive mode, I found the adaptive dampers to do a decent job of managing ride comfort on badly crumbling back roads, provided that drivers are very reasonable with their speed. You're seeing the Kona N's best work on smooth, flat, dry pavement, but backroads driving was handled with much less spinal abuse than I expected. Here's your standard tripod bag, camera bag, and not too much room for anything else here. I'll take these out so you can see what we're looking at. Cargo cover is going to come off if we need it to. Down underneath, a little bit of an organizer. And instead of a spare tire, we have a tire mobility kit. In here, tow hook, compressor, and a can of tire sealant. Front seat occupants have easy access to charging and storage nearby, and the Android Auto system worked all but flawlessly during my test week too. On graphics, displays, and especially the steering wheel, this interior impresses. Elsewhere, not so much. There's no sunroof, climate control is a fully manual 2-dial affair, and material selection is mostly gray plastic that's sure to leave some shoppers after a little more upscale flair. Occasional axle hop, suspension wax, boring plastics, and wedgies aside, the Kona N gives you a lot of cool stuff to try and makes sure you're having a good time doing it. I'd happily pay $40,000 for one of these, though the future release of an all-wheel drive equipped version is now included in my nightly prayers. Thank you for watching. My name's Justin Pritchard from Motoring TV, and until next time, take care and drive safe.
Launched in 1988, it was only found on TV, not anymore. We have a robust website with the best auto journalists in the country. Our Facebook, where the only topic of conversation is cars, and where it's easy to win cool swag. YouTube, which boasts 30 years of archives at your fingertips, including complete episodes. Cool shirts, right? For the first time ever, we're selling them. Google Motoring TV Shop to get yours today.